Halloween is nearly upon us. To celebrate, I've made something special from one of the best horror games ever made, Pyramid Head from Silent Hill 2. I will show you step by step how I made this so you can too. In the description below, I've left you links to all the materials required for this project. Start by printing and cutting out the template which I've provided for you. Once it's cut out, we're going to make the top of the pyramid. We're going to mark the center of the board at the top and bottom. Take the ruler and draw a line connecting them. Measure 6 inches up from the bottom and make marks for the very bottom. Now from your center mark, you're going to measure 4 inches on both sides. Take the shape template and put it up against the mark you just made to get the next line started. Now using the angled line we just made, measure 20 inches to extend to the next line. Continue this to get the rest of your shape with the measurements on the sheet. Every line is going to connect to the top center mark. Let's get this shape cut out. Every line inside of your cutout will be your score lines. This is important and consistent throughout this project. Scoring is cutting into the material without cutting all the way through. So take your time with this and have consistent pressure when scoring. You do not want to cut all the way through. It will be more work for you to fix it. Once you've scored the inside lines, it's time to see why you did that. Let's start folding these pieces into shape. Press down next to the piece you're about to fold, and then take your hand and push upwards while putting pressure near the crease. Keep your hands close so that you can control the bend. We don't want any unwanted bends. On your second board, repeat your center line. Mark half in the bottom and top and connect them. By now, you should see a pattern here. We're going to get the templates traced out. We have to do a bit more here on this step. Once you've traced out the outline of the template, we have to start reconnecting the dots. Be careful of this part. Make sure the dots line up properly. You don't want to score the wrong line and have to start this part over. Once the one half of your template is traced out, flip it over and put the center piece back over itself so you can trace the other half. Make sure they line up at the ends using the center line. Now that's done, we're going to repeat the same process like before.
Yay! Louder! Yay!
Cut out the outside lines, and then we're going to score all the lines on the inside. All the scoring is done, and then we have to start folding again. Start on the outside fold and repeat what you did on the first part. Apply pressure close to where you're folding upwards. Sadly, some of my recordings got corrupted, so I won't be able to show this part, but the very inside folds are going to be folded the opposite because those are the pieces that you will be gluing to the inside of the pyramid shape. I use duct tape to start connecting the shapes together before gluing so that I can go piece by piece with the gluing. We can still add more details to complete pyramid head. Using the single foam board, you're going to trace out the very bottom panel. This is going to be attached to the sides and gradually move under the bottom and line up with the very front of the helmet. Let's hot glue the bottom section to the pyramid so we can start seeing it come together. Now I bet you're wondering at this point, how can I see out of it? Well, seeing how this is not the pointed movie version, that's the neat part. You don't! But the original pyramid head, by design, there isn't any forward visibility, besides looking down or lifting the helmet up. But I can give you some options like adding strategic damage, like huge thin gashes, holes, or such to see out of it. Let's see how creative you can get. The helmet shape itself is done, so it's up to you to make it your own. In the rest of the video, I will show you how I completed my own pyramid head. I will go over the primer, type of paint, and weathering techniques. If this seems like a little bit too much, that's okay, but I urge you to at least give it a try. Once I completed the base shape, it was time to add some extra details. I used EVA foam strips for the borders. Using this scraping tool, I broke down the very top layer of the protective paper. There are multiple, so don't just try and rip off the paper entirely. Breaking through the very top layer allowed me to start ripping away at the layers so I could get this really interesting texture. You want to give as much variety in the texture as possible before painting. Once the whole thing was ripped away, I added a few more cuts and scratches for a more damaged look. For the primer, I'm going to use Plasti-Dip. I highly recommend this for priming most projects. I'm going to start with light sprays and start building up in various areas so that the primer can damage the board in a more controlled way. I thought to myself, how can I get the most out of this project? Well, sometimes mistakes can be advantageous in art. Aerosol dissolves the foam used in foamboard, styrofoam, and XPS foam, but I'm going to use that. Once it's cured, we can paint it. I'm using a combination of paints, Engine Red, Copper, and Tuscan Red, and I'll leave links to them. Adding some paint to my brush, I use various mixes of the colors while dry brushing on top of the black primer to build up my color and give it plenty of color variations. Don't apply too much paint on your brush. This is a process, so be patient when building up your colors for a really interesting result in combination with the textures we just created. Pyramid Head is done, and this was something a younger me who grew up on these games could have only dreamed of owning, but now it's done and I love it. I hope you will as well. I would love to see what you make. I'll be adding links to my social media so that you can send me your finished projects. Have a terrifying Halloween, and I will see you in that quiet little lakeside resort town called Silent Hill.